Hello, everybody, and welcome to ZTV Live. I'm Susan Mulligan Fleischman, and I'm so glad to have you join us tonight. Tonight, Jane Collins is back as our guest host with her Ask 10 Questions program, and her guest tonight is Barbie Sweeney, who's a residential coordinator for the domestic violence program for the city of Alexandria. We're going to get to know Barbara a lot better, both professionally and personally. But before we bring Jane and Barbie on, I do just have a few words from our sponsors. Tonight's episode of ZTV Live is brought to you by a good friend of the Zebra, Yates Automotive at Yates Corner. This family-owned operation has been serving Alexandria since 1964. Yates is your one-stop shop for all your automotive needs. Yates Automotive is located next to Yates Corner on Braddock Road and Mount Vernon Avenue. For great convenience in errand running, check out Yates Dry Cleaners right next door, an eco-friendly operation featuring free pickup and delivery. Visit yatesservice.com for more information. And if you're feeling hungry or thirsty, check out Lena's Oasis on Yates Corner. This outdoor tented dining room welcomes you with spacious cabana seating, tall palm trees, flowing shears, Moroccan-style lanterns, and greenery all around. The restaurant serves favorites from Lena's wood-fired grill, along with specialty cocktails, beer, and wine in an immersive tropical atmosphere. Enjoy a relaxing summer weekend brunch, Saturdays and Sundays from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Prefer to dine at home? You can still order curbside pickup and delivery from Lena's wood-fired pizza and tap. And right next to the Oasis is Lena's Beer Garden, where you can relax under the lights and umbrellas among the hedges with a glass of wine, cocktail, or your favorite Port City brew. Lena's Beer Garden is celebrating Virginia Craft Beer Month with amazing local brews from Port City Brewing, including new releases, a special beer pairing dinner menu, beer flights, giveaways, and more. They also have snacks and their famous wood-fired pizzas available to order as well. Socially distanced and sanitized seating is on a first-come, first-served basis. An added bonus, the beer garden is dog-friendly, so bring your favorite four-legged best friend along. Visit lenaswoodfire.com for all the details. If you'd like to advertise or become a sponsor of ZTV Live, please send us an email at ads@thezebrapress.com. Well, it's always great to sing the praises of Yates. They're Alexandria mainstay and a pillar in the community, living legends as well. So please go ahead and check out Lena's. I actually went there with my family about a month ago, and we were blown away by how comfortable and fabulous everything was. And I just can't compliment it more. So definitely go check it out. In the meantime, though, let's get back to the show and let's bring our friend Jane Collins on the air. Hi, Jane. Welcome back to ZTV Live.
Hi, Susan. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. And you know what? You're right. Lena's is awesome. I've gone there a couple of times, and what they've transformed it to is just amazing. It is so much fun, and the pizza's always awesome. So yeah, everybody go.
Absolutely. And the service, they could not be friendlier. And
Yeah.
we were coming back here. So yeah, it was really
Yeah.
great. So I'm glad you like it too. Let me go ahead and bring Barbara on the screen too. Hello, Barbara. Welcome to ZTV Live.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi.
Jane, I'm going to let you take it from here.
Okay. All right, Susan. We'll see you in half an hour. Thanks. Okay, Barbara. Hi. Are you nervous?
Just a little bit, but that wine and beer and pizza sure did sound good. So
I did.
I'd have to check that out.
So you haven't been to Lena's yet?
I was there last winter. It was almost winter, and we sat outside. They have blankets and everything around their fire fixtures. It was really very nice. I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, you know how we play 10 questions. It's actually more than 10 questions, but I have the magic bowl here, and I'll ask you questions going back and forth from your professional work to your personal life so people can just get to know you as well as what you do as the residential coordinator for the, I want to say this right, Domestic Violence Intervention Program. Is that correct?
Domestic violence program.
Okay. Well, thank you. So we'll just start with the first question, and that is, tell me about what you do.
So I am the residential coordinator of the Alexandria Domestic Violence Program and Safe House. So what that means is I actually supervise the facility, the actual shelter, safe house that we have here in the city. It's a 21-bed shelter for women and children that would be coming in that need a safe place to stay. We're a short-term emergency-based shelter for those that are in imminent danger. If we have individuals such as transgender individuals or male victims, we currently are putting those in hotels so that we can they can access services the same as anybody else would. I mean, ideally and hopefully one day we'll be able to have them all together in the same safe house, because I think it's important for that to have that camaraderie and support from others that are in similar situations. So the shelter piece is one part of my job. The other part is community outreach. I do a lot of work out in the community, currently not right now with COVID, but a lot of community presentations. I do a lot of groups at guest house and in the detention center. I provide court advocacy for victims that are in court for criminal cases, protection orders, child custody, support, that sort of thing. So kind of a variety of things, which I really like. Kind of keeps things, interesting and different, and allows me to also get out of the shelter and be out and about in the community.
Yeah. I didn't know you did so much.
I do.
Yeah.
Which is really, for me, one of the great things about this position, because I could be in the courthouse, I could be at my office now, visiting one of the, animal care place.
Barbara, your sound is going out.
Yeah, the sound is going out. I don't know what it is.
Let's see.
Can you maybe turn your volume up a little bit?
I can try to do that, yeah.
Yeah, now you're fine. Maybe
that
you
better?
should lean back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and speaking of all that you do, your first personal question is, are you a morning person or a night owl?
Unfortunately, I'm a night owl, but my job requires me to be a little bit of both because we do get up early when we have to go to work and be there at 8 o'clock. But at the same time, we also are on call a lot, so it does require me sometimes to find out in the evening or in the middle of the night to the hospital or the police department or something like that. But my preferred time is definitely nighttime.
Yeah. Well, and I want to say something. I think what's happening is when you're talking, you're kind of moving, and that's making the sound go in and out. So
okay, I'll try to sit still. It's hard.
the toughest part about this job, right, is you just have to sit in your chair and look straight ahead and not move, and that is tough for half an hour. But
that is,
here
I'm
we
not
go.
used to doing that. So
Yeah,
It is the hardest part of the
especially
job
as
for
busy as you
sure.
are. But so tell us. So what are the signs of emotional abuse in a relationship?
So some of the more obvious signs of emotional abuse in a relationship are things like someone trying to control your behavior in some way, maybe control what you're wearing. The friends that
I can't hear you. Yeah. Yeah. Can you lean close? Or try leaning into, like almost right into your screen. See if that
I'll
helps.
go closer. Is that better?
Yes, that's
Okay.
Yeah,
better.
actually that is. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just sit closer.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it can be some of those kinds of things, controlling your behavior, what you wear, where you go, who you spend your time with.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And the more obvious, verbal abuse, would be along those lines as well.
Okay. All right. Well, great. Well, thank you. And it's really tough because, we try to go back and forth with personal and professional at the same time. This is such a delicate subject. And the segue isn't always very smooth. So they're about to get a really random question that makes
Okay.
absolutely no sense. But do you collect anything?
I do collect pets, actually.
Oh.
Not like actively, but it just sort of happens. So animals have always been a really big part of my life, and they help reduce a lot of stress. So, I have 3 dogs, 7 cats, a horse, and a rabbit. And
Wow.
And I don't live on a farm, unfortunately. I wish that I did, but some of them I've inherited from my children, and some have just lived for a really long time. So, Um, so yes, I guess in some ways you could call me a collector of that. I'm actually trying to downsize, which is really hard when you like to have things around you.
Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to imagine. Okay, first of all, where do you keep the horse?
So we keep the horse down at a stable in Lorton called Jarvis Stable. So it's a boarding farm, and we've had him. My older daughter, and I have had him for about 15 years now, and he's the best therapy of anything,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
and as expensive too.
Yeah.
So yeah, so he's down in Lorton, which is not too far from from where we live, and then the dogs, obviously, we have various ages because my children also were tending to bring animals home, and boyfriends would bring gifts, and then one of the gifts had kittens, and on
Mm-hmm.
and on and on. So yeah.
Uh, well, actually, well, never mind. But I'm still stuck on all the animals. Oh, I know what I want to ask you. Have you ever done foster pets?
Well, we've looked into it, and we have not, only because I just feel like the dynamic would be really difficult with so many other animals in the house. But I work really close with the animal shelter.
Oh, lean
They're
close.
very, they're very involved with our domestic violence program.
Yeah.
Um, and so I try to facilitate foster caretakers for some of the animals that we have. Um, maybe
Okay. This is the next question, and again, this your sound still cuts in and out, and this is an important question. So,
okay.
I guess like you just get as close
I'll
to the
try to
camera
stay
as you
really,
can.
really
There
still
you
and
go.
very close in.
There you go. When someone needs to leave a partner because of domestic violence, what steps should they take?
So I would always suggest that they contact the hotline in their jurisdiction,
Mhm.
just so they can do some very detailed safety planning with that person, to make sure that they can be as safe as possible when they do leave. It's important to remember that domestic violence is about power and relationships, and when someone needs to be jeopardized, they
I don't either.
I don't know, Barbara. I don't know. It's so unfortunate, but the sound keeps going out toward. It's coming and going. Do you have earbuds on?
no.
Oh, okay. And now you sound fine. So I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Keep going. It's one of those
Uh,
fun technical glitches that makes live recordings so fun.
Yeah.
no, I, I
What's the hotline
understand.
number in Alexandria?
It's 703
Mhm.
746 4911.
Okay.
It's a 24-hour number, so there's always someone here that would be able to answer the hotline and help somebody that was in need.
Okay. All right. Anything else you want to say on that? Just because you cut out during part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to be, sure that people understood that that's a really dangerous time to leave, so that you need to really have a plan, and a professional can help you make that plan.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'm really having trouble because this is such a delicate subject and I don't want to go into. So, what's your favorite ice cream? So, so I'm going to like break tradition here and ask
Okay.
another serious question. If you do have a violent partner, and if they threaten to stalk or kill you, what should that partner do, and should that be taken seriously?
Yeah, so stalking behavior can be very, very serious and should be taken seriously, or as well as any other sort of, threat to harm someone physically. If somebody shares that information with you that that's happening in their relationship, the best thing that you can do is to be supportive of them and, explain to them that it's not their fault what's happening. People often feel like they've done something wrong, and invited this kind of behavior in some way, and that's just not the case. So, whatever they make, frustrating at times because you want to do certain things, you think that's in their best interest, but really the victim is the best judge of her own safety and what things she can do to safely, navigate that situation.
Okay, so you said, because you did cut in and out, but you did say the victim was the best judge of the victim's own safety. And I've seen different terms. Should a person who is on the receiving end or had at one point in their life been on the receiving end of domestic violence, is that the proper term, a victim or a survivor?
So I think it's going to depend on who you talk to
Okay.
about that. A lot of times people reference themselves as victims when something has initially happened, say if they have a criminal case that's pending, or the abuse. But once they are out of then they will. So it's always sort of ask them, would you prefer that, that you be called a survivor or victim? And it changes depending on where they are in the process sometimes.
Okay. And you're a social worker, is that right?
Yes.
And what made you go into social work? What prompted you?
So I grew up in a medical family, and so I was around helpers all the time. But I did not like the medical aspect of things, but I did like the helping. And so I had looked for opportunities in the city when I was in college to volunteer. And so I started volunteering here at the shelter, and became very interested in holistic and dynamic, and decided at that point that was the direction that I was going to go.
And you had said that you do use volunteers in your program, is that right?
We do. We use volunteers here in the shelter to cover on weekends and holidays. They
Uh-huh.
have staff backup to help them out. We use volunteers in court to help provide advocacy as well. And in the days of when we were doing community events, such as the farmers markets and different things like that, we would also use them.
And if somebody wants to volunteer with you, how do they contact you?
So they can contact the hotline number and just say that they're interested in volunteering, and they'll
Okay.
get directed either to me or to someone else at the moment that can talk
Okay.
to them about that. Mhm.
And for all the viewers out there, if you have a question you want to ask Barbara about the domestic violence program in the city of Alexandria, you could type it into the comments. We may ask it now. We may ask it in the 5 questions follow-up. So please type your comments in. Do you know, I actually volunteered at a domestic violence shelter back in 1993 at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. And I was active duty at the time. And it was an absolutely a life-changing experience for me. And I ended up working with, we had 6 squadrons of F-15s there. And I worked with the different wives club. They're called spouses clubs now. And we had a huge diaper drive.
Yep.
Diapers, clothes, food, all kinds of things. And they had never partnered together before. And it was just so rewarding to watch the communities come together like that and to hear the spouses club, the wives club, talk to the director saying, oh my gosh, we want to keep on helping you. So
It is very rewarding. And I mean, we're so lucky here in Alexandria because we have such wonderful community partners that donate to us and provide other services and are just always there when we need something. So I hear you. It was a very rewarding experience when I first started, and it was what, I knew that that's what I wanted to continue to do.
Yeah. Does your shelter need anything right now? Do you have any immediate needs?
I mean, we're always in need of diapers and, baby supplies. And normally we would do grocery store fundraisers, but we haven't been able to do that this year. The Kiwanis Club always helped us with that, but it's not really something we can do right now. So staples are always very important to fill our pantry. So if people are interested in donating anything to us, they can call the hotline number. We also have a wish list that you can see if there's anything there that's donated. So there's different ways that you could do that.
Okay, and speaking of food, I do have a personal question that actually slides into this. What is your favorite comfort food?
I would have to say pizza. You can eat it hot or cold or the next day or whatever. So it's my go-to. I don't think I've ever had bad pizza ever.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite in Alexandria? Besides Lena's, of course.
I don't know that I have a favorite anymore. I would have to say my favorite of all time is Grotto's in Rehoboth. So.
Is what?
Grotto's in Rehoboth.
Oh, okay. Well, what about frozen? Do you do frozen pizza?
If I have to, it's not
Yeah.
my preference, but I mean, I'm not that picky when it comes to pizza. So
Yeah.
I could honestly, I could eat it every day.
Same.
So,
And we always keep a frozen pizza in the freezer too. And Susan's raising her hand like, yeah, me too.
and I'm
So,
not like crazy about like different toppings. I like just plain cheese pizza.
oh,
So,
really?
hmm
Pepperoni. Got to have some pepperoni. So, as you talk about what you do, it's rewarding, but honestly, it sounds a little depressing sometimes. So, how do you stay motivated and rejuvenated?
I mean, that's a good question because I think since I've been in the field for a long time, I've learned a lot more about how to do that for myself. When I was younger, I wasn't really very good at self-care,
Right.
and and it showed. And I took a break from the field for a while, and then came back to it, and with much more knowledge. And like I said, I spent a lot of time, and I make a very concerted effort now to do those things. Whereas before, they were sort of secondary to me, and I think that's what's making something unique. When you start to do that, you just deplete your own, resources that you have for yourself and everything else. And now, that
We've
they're in court that they might return to the relationship, and that's not a positive thing. But every time they return, they're returning with more information than they have. They
You're cutting out an awful lot,
Okay.
unfortunately, but I did hear the word self care.
Yes,
So, if we can summarize it in one word, which we
that
can't
would be
really,
it.
but
Self care.
yeah. Okay, well, and what do you do if you have a friend, if you know of someone and you suspect that they're in a violent relationship? Um, what do you do? What would I do if I thought my friend or family was in that?
So I think it's important on how you approach that person initially. You don't want to be accusatory in some way because it's important to remember that the person abusing them is most likely someone that they are in a relationship with, a loving relationship, and so they're going to become defensive. Um, so you may want to just point out some observations that you've had. I've noticed that that you've been crying a lot lately, or that you're not spending enough time with friends. That
hang on, Barbara, you're cutting out again. It seems like though it's almost like a wave once we
Yeah.
begin talking, and then you talk again. So I'm interrupting you, and I'm going to have you talk again so that your volume will be back up to normal. Anyway, please continue.
And so give them the opportunity to share what they're comfortable with you about the relationship and what may be going on, and tell them that there is support out there for them. Maybe accompany them to the police department, and make them feel like they're not alone.
Make them feel like they're not alone. I want to make sure that I repeated that because you're cutting out again. But
Yes.
yeah, okay. Um, on a completely different note, the next question that came out was, have you ever sent an embarrassing text to the wrong person?
Yeah, I did. I mean, it wasn't like horrible, horrible, but it was definitely not supposed to go to the person that it was intended. And of course, that's always an embarrassing thing to do, which taught me to slow down in my texting and sending.
Uh-huh. Has anything like any permanent damage come out of that, or did you recover?
No, no permanent damage other than my own embarrassment that has
Yeah.
stayed with me.
Yeah. It happens. I think it happens to all of us. All right, viewers, how many of you have sent an embarrassing text to the wrong person? Raise your hand. So, what effect has COVID-19 had on domestic violence? The news keeps saying that the probability that it's happened has gone up, although people aren't reporting because there's not as many opportunities to be safe.
Right. So, I mean, here in Alexandria, initially, we did not see the increase in calls that we heard about nationwide. The calls that we were getting were more for basic needs like food and rental assistance. But we're starting to now see a significant increase in requests for shelter, and I think that's because people are now starting to go out. They're starting to feel like that it's a little bit safer for them to access services. Although we were up and running the entire time and providing virtual outreach counseling and doing all of those things, I think individuals just were not as comfortable leaving at that point, and now they're getting back into to thinking about alternatives.
And how prevalent is domestic violence among men?
It's really quite prevalent. They're just, underreported significantly. And I mean, I personally work with a lot of the male victims that we get, and that's the biggest obstacle is the shame associated with that, and that they can't understand. People don't understand necessarily how they could find themselves in that situation. But if you've grown up in an environment where violence was not used to control someone else, it's such a foreign thing to you that when you find yourself with a partner that uses those kinds of tactics, it really throws you off. And you're reluctant to seek help for that, thinking it's something that you've done wrong. But yes, very, very prevalent. Sexual assault as well, very high in men.
So I have another incredibly random question for you. Would you rather live inside a museum or live inside a zoo?
Well, I'd have to go with the zoo just because of the animals.
Of course. Of course. Or you could just go home, right?
That's right. I can just go home to my own zoo, right?
Yeah. So what is the emotional impact of somebody who has been on the receiving end of domestic violence or sexual assault as well, for that matter?
I probably the most prevalent impact is the lowered self-esteem that someone has, and the kind of the learned helplessness as a result of the violence or assaults that they've had happened to them, and it really hinders them from seeking services quite often because they just don't have that ability to kind of pull themselves up and go out and seek whatever assistance they need, which from my perspective is very important when an incident happens and the police respond. It's that intervention sometimes that individuals need, kind of that jump start to getting them to look at the situation that they're really in and to access services that are available to the system. So it sort of takes away that requirement that they have to do all of this for themselves. Sometimes people just are not ready.
Yeah. Yeah, and so you talked about from your perspective, and also from your perspective, what can Alexandrians do to make our community stronger and better?
I mean, obviously, if you see something, say something. Call 911 if you witness any sort of abuse. Fact that there's abuse happening. Our police department is very responsive.
Hang on, Barbie. You're losing your signal again, so I'm just going to pop in and say, let's give it a second because I know when you start talking again, it'll come back up. So sorry for the interruption, but please carry on.
Okay. So I mean, if you suspect, if it's a neighbor, if you hear noises, call the police, or if you see something on the street, absolutely report that as well.
So are there?
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, and I was going to just say, again, volunteering and donating to different programs throughout the city is, we couldn't do it without that.
So are there any apps or devices that people can use to protect themselves from domestic violence or sexual assault?
So there are a lot of different apps that are available now, particularly for things like stalking. You can keep track of someone's movements and create your own safety plan. So there are a lot of different ones out there now. The criminal justice system has some apps that you can use also for notification purposes as well.
Okay.
So, a lot of variety.
So one more, because it is 7:30 now, but I've always heard that abusers were abused themselves as children. Is that true?
Quite often it's true, but it's not always the case. I mean, obviously, as children, you learn what you witnessed growing up. You learn how to solve your problems by, watching what went on in your household. And if that's your skill set, that's what you've got to go with. But that doesn't mean that everyone that grew up in a house.
Hang on, Barbie. Hold that thought. Sorry. I'm so sorry to keep interrupting, but I want to hear everything you're saying because you're giving such great and helpful information. So I'm going to have
Okay.
you pick it up again.
Okay. So yeah, so not necessarily, if they grew up in an abusive household doesn't 100% mean that they're going to be abusers, but quite often that will happen.
Okay. All right. So as we're wrapping up now, first of all, thank you. I'm just sorry the sound kept cutting out because
Thank
you have
you.
such important information. And so if you could give out the domestic violence hotline number again. So for those of you listening, if you are in that situation, if you know someone in that situation, if you can just take this number, if anything else, take this with you and share it or use it. So Barbie, if you could give that number again and then anything else you want to say.
Certain. It's 703-746-4911. And again, it's a 24-hour hotline number that you can access and talk to a counselor. And, if you're calling from another jurisdiction, you can get help.
Okay, well, you cut out again, but we got the number for Alexandria. And even if you call that number and you're not in Alexandria, they should be able to refer you to the number for your jurisdiction. So thank
And then
you so much.
I wanted to ask one question, Jane. Is the website? I looked up that number, Barbara. It's www.domesticshelters.org.
That's one, but there's also the City of Alexandria website that you can access through DCHS.
And do you have that website handy? I'll just type it into the comments for.
I think I gave it to Jane.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well,
Can
we'll
you
put
repeat
on
it?
the
And
five
I'll
questions.
just type it in here if you want to repeat it.
let me look it up.
Oh, I see. Sorry, I was trying to help, and I'm just making it
The
more
city
difficult.
website.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm looking
It's
at
Alexandria.
the alexandriava.gov.
Right.
Um,
And then /DCHS.
right.
And
Yeah.
then on the DCHS page, you can find the domestic violence program and the sexual assault center.
Terrific. Sorry, I didn't mean to put everybody on
right.
bring it to a screeching halt there.
It's been a very entertaining 30
Yeah,
minutes,
it certainly has.
Oh, I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
right? Yeah. Well, Barbara, thanks for hanging in there. You came on short notice. You only had a couple of days to prepare for this, and the information you gave is just so important. So again, I'm sorry about the sound. I don't know why it's being so weird, but you've given out the number for the hotline. You've given out the website. People can contact you, and so I hope you do. I hope you hear from people who need to get a hold of you.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. Thank
thanks
you so
again.
much for having me.
Okay, well, everybody join us for 5 more questions with Barbara Sweeney. It'll be on the Zebra in the next couple of days. Back to you, Susan.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Jane, and thank you, Barbara, for hanging in there. And I apologize for all the sound problems that we had tonight. We've never had that before. It's the beauty of these live streams. But thank you so much. It was a sobering topic, but a very important one. And Barbara just, if she's indicative of the help that you're going to get there, you'll be in good hands. And so please don't hesitate to reach out for counseling or for any assistance whatsoever. That's going to do it for us at ZTV Live tonight. Tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, the Virginia Amos Show. Virginia's guests are Amy Eggers and Lauren Fisher of the Delray Vintage and Flea Market. So they'll be here talking about their mid-century modern aesthetic and their what they do and why they started this flea market. So that should be a really interesting show. So I hope you'll join us tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. But until then, remember to be the good news in someone's life.